I can share. Yeah, should we do it like a drum roll or something?
We'll do a little drum roll for the announcement of where Isabel Ivey is going next.
I'm going to the University of...
Today's guest is one of the best swimmers in the nation. Coming out of high school, she was ranked the #1 recruit in the nation. And now, as she graduates from UC Berkeley, she's ranked among the all-time leaders in 5 events at the prestigious Cal swimming program. She's a member of 2 school record relays, a multiple-time All-American and Scholar All-American that has various pool and dual meet records for Cal, as well as an NCAA relay champion, a Pac-12 champion, and a Pac-12 Swimmer of the Year. The resume speaks for itself for why I'd be interested in inviting her as a guest, but what impacted me the most is how she's more than just an amazing swimmer. In this episode, we talk about her mental health journey, the toxic culture around social media today, how she's managed to deal with the media after so much controversy this year, the big decision that will shape her future ahead, and so much more. My guest for today is the great Isabel Ivey. This was recorded on November 17th, 2022. My name is Fernando Andrade, and I hope you enjoy this episode as much as I did.
Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of Denting. Today I have a very special guest here with me, so excited to retry this, I guess. After a few fails, twice pre now, we're going to make this work. Isabel Ivey, how are you?
I'm great. I'm so excited to be doing this again. Yeah. I'm stoked.
No, it's going to be super fun. I'm very excited about this one. I guess I'll be open about it. We've recorded once, didn't work out for other reasons, and now we're back here. So we'll see how this goes.
Cool.
For those that may not know you, would you like to introduce yourself to the audience?
Oh gosh. I'm Isabel Ivey. I'm on the women's swim team at Cal, graduating class of 2022. So I'm graduating this December. I'm from Florida, and yeah, that's a really general introduction, but...
A bit general, but we'll obviously get into your story. I mean, you're being humble, but you've won it nearly all at the collegiate level, and I mean, your story is very interesting, which we'll obviously get into today. I was mentioning before we started recording that, like I said, you've won it nearly all: Pac-12 Swimmer of the Year, Pac-12 champion with your team, Pac-12 champion individually, NCAA champion on relays, like so many things. But today I want to focus more on the COVID topic of like Isabel Ivey more than a swimmer, and just get to know you and how that's shaped you, and we'll go from there. So to start, would you like to remind me, I guess, and tell the audience how you got into swimming? Obviously, I remember that your mom and family were swimmers, but how did you get into swimming?
Yeah, both my parents swam. My biological father was an Olympic athlete, and then my mom was on the national team, and she swam at the University of Florida. And so I think it was like I've heard this story. I don't remember it, but it was 2004 Summer Olympics. We were watching it because my mom swam, obviously. We were watching the swimming portion, and I remember Natalie Coughlin, who's a huge Cal alum, like massive. She's an icon in the swimming world, was swimming, and I pointed to the TV and said, I want to do that. And so Mom took me in the backyard and taught me how to swim, and I was like 3 at the time. So then I, did lessons, did all that stuff, and I was so annoyed because I think at like a certain age they only let you do like X amount of practices a week, so I think I was only allowed like 3, and I was like, are you freaking kidding me? Like, I want to do this every day. And so it just kind of like over time just became this passion of mine. And of course I did other sports growing up, but swimming just stuck the most. It was the most fun for me. So
have you ever told Natalie that story?
Okay, this is so embarrassing. I've seen her, I've had a couple interactions with her, and the first time I ever met her, my coach Terry at Cal was like introduced her to me, and I was so just like starstruck. She like stuck out her hand, and I just like, I was frozen. I couldn't move, and that happened like 3 times where I just like couldn't. I was so starstruck. And recently at the aquatics gala, actually, I went up to her and I was like, hi, like, I'm the biggest fan, you're the reason why I swim, like, all this stuff. So that was really cool. But yeah.
What did she say to that, like the reason that you swim?
Yeah, she was just obviously, like, I think it was a little touching for her. And I think there's so many girls who feel that way about Natalie. So I think for me to say that, it meant a lot to me, but I'm sure she appreciated it. And she's played such a huge role. Like, she would come in and, like, talk to the team and come to our meets and stuff and cheer us on. So her being in the Bay Area was just amazing. To have her so close and to learn from her was something I never thought I would get that opportunity. So
yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. That's an awesome story. You mentioned that you played other sports. Was there ever a moment that you had to decide between two sports?
Yes, so it was volleyball and swimming, and it was the practices started overlapping, and Mom was like, I'm not going to drive you, like, rush you to swim practice as soon as volleyball ends across town, like, all this stuff. So, and then my swim coaches were like, if you want to take it seriously, you got to pick one. And so I ended up picking swimming, and I'm glad I did. But there are days where I'm like, dang, like, our team over the summer would, like, go up to the beach volleyball courts, and I was like, oh, this is so fun. Like, I kind of miss it, but obviously my life would have been so different if I had picked that sport, and I wouldn't have, like, my friends or some of the opportunities I've been gifted. So yeah.
Touching on that, like, those opportunities, how seriously you were taking swimming, and yeah, especially those friends, from a very early age, it looked like you took it very seriously with, I mean, being on the national team on juniors, being surrounded by amazing athletes from that very young age. I mentioned that when I did research for you as a guest, there were interviews from where you were, like, barely even becoming a teenager, like, super young with interviews. You were the #1 recruit in the nation according to Swim coming into college, like, so many of these things. Looking back at it now, do you think that was, like, a good thing, a bad thing? How did that shape you?
I think there's different levels of pressure, and I think when I was so young, I guess when I, like, got really good, when I, like, made my first, like, team, my USA team, like, whatever it was, after that, like, I had a really hard year. So after 2016, 2017, I had a really hard year, and I think it was just, like, oh my gosh, I have to make a team, like, I have to perform, like, all this stuff. I think growing up, I didn't, like, when I was 12, some of those interviews, I didn't really know anything. Like, I was like, oh, like, even when recruitment, right, like, I didn't even think somebody would, like, take me to college. Like, I just didn't understand that part of the sport, or really just, I didn't think I was good enough to get college offers, even when I was making these teams or whatnot. Like, there's just all different levels of everything. So I think, like, looking back, I don't think it was a bad thing. I think it exposed me to a lot of things, media training and, like, doing stuff like that. And so, yeah, it was definitely, like, a whirlwind, like, looking back on, like, yeah, I would take it really freaking seriously when I was, like, 12, like, or even, I think 14 was when I was like, okay, like, I got this. And we would have 5 a.m. practice, and I would get there at 4. And I would try to we had an assistant coach. He's my club coach now. His name's Alex. And I would try to beat him to the pool. And so I'd be sitting outside the gate, like, open the door, and it'd be 4 a.m. And I would just stare down the pool. Like, lights would be off. I would literally just be staring at the pool like, I'm about to crush this practice. And I would just sit there for an hour thinking about how I'm going to crush the practice and then do it. But it was just, like, that type of motivation. I was, like, all in when I was 14. Like, that was, something clicked. I don't remember exactly what it was, but I was just like, okay, this is, like, what I'm doing. So, yeah.
to get there at 4 a.m., what time were you getting up, and, like, how were you getting there? Was your mom getting up before that too?
Yeah, I would wake my mom up. I would wake up, I lived fairly close, and of course, like, that early, it's like the lights are, like, the flashing lights, so you don't get stuck at any lights or anything. So I would wake up at, like, 3:40, and we would leave at, like, 3:45, get there at 4, and then make fun of my coach for beating him, and then he would let me in. So
I guess it helps that your mom had a very similar experience as a swimmer, because if not, I don't know how a parent could do that.
No, but she was so thankful when I got my license and I could drive myself, because she did not have to wake up anymore.
Yeah, no, that's crazy. What was your sleep like back then? Because I remember last time we talked, you were, like, very careful, I guess, of your sleep schedule now. But going back to those times, how was your sleep schedule?
I don't know. I mean, I think it was kind of normal, I guess. Like, I averaged, like, 8 hours, when I was
You'd
younger.
get up at 3:40 a.m. and average 8 hours.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I was out. Like but I also think that like I was so like I'd get there at 4. Like just getting there and sitting there and mentally like using all that energy of like I'm about to crush. You know what I mean? So like I wasn't just physically, like I was mentally, like I was so exhausted all the time. So I would just like, we'd have morning practice, go to school for 8 and 9 hours, whatever it was, and then have another 3-hour practice that night, get home at 7, eat, do whatever homework I could, and then I would just clock out. Like I would just like pass out when I was done. So yeah, 8 hours. But also like there were some nights in high school where I was just like all-nighter, like okay. But I also feel like when I was younger, it was like, I don't know. Like, if I were to do that now, I wouldn't survive. But I think when you're young like that, you're kind of like, oh, all-nighter, whatever. Like, it's cool. Like, so, yeah. I don't think it took as much of a toll on me at that age as it would now.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, for sure. I can't imagine doing that now. But I remember, I think I told you last time, my senior year of high school, I was getting up same time as well, like 3:30 a.m., to get to the gym at 5, which was a bit of a commute, and then go to school, and then individual training after school. Then I would nap, and then I would go to club practice. But I wouldn't get back until like 10, and I was going off of like 3-4 hours of sleep every night. For some reason, I was super hyped to do it, but eventually
it catches up.
It caught up.
Yeah, for sure. It's a huge commitment. Like I feel like as soon as that flip or switch flips, whatever, like, and you're all in. Like, it's like, what is sleep? Like, it's like, okay, like, if it comes, it comes. If not, like, at least I'm performing well or, like, something like that, so.
Yeah. Well, that's a very intense thing to do at such a young age, but I can somewhat relate to it. But that's cool that in a way the seriousness shaped you to who you are today, Like, I can look back at myself and be like, well, in some moments, maybe I took it way too seriously and I could have chilled out, but I don't know how you feel about this. Maybe like the way I feel is if I didn't take it as seriously, even if it wasn't as important, if I didn't take it that seriously, I wouldn't be who I am today. Like those things, it wasn't really like the result, like the actual result of the competition or whatever, but rather how it shaped me and formed me into who I am today, I guess. Like, I don't know if you could get there without that seriousness, if that makes sense.
I think for me, it's almost like if I didn't take it that seriously, I didn't want it enough. So it's like if I didn't want it, then why am I doing it? So I took it so seriously because I did want it. But I think looking back, there are days where I'm like, dang, wish I'd gone to that birthday party or like that sleepover, like whatever it was. And it's like, okay, but like what was more important at the time? Like it was like, okay, this is high school, like probably not going to talk to these people in like 10 years or whatever. So it's like, but swimming or whatever, academics, like all these different things like last forever. I mean, okay, you don't swim forever, but like the opportunities you'll get, like going to college, like stuff like that, like those come every now and then. But I think it was just like what was more important and finding that balance, but also realizing like, no, I really want this, so I'm going to go for it type of mentality, which yeah, definitely I think shaped me a lot, like especially like coming here, like it was just like a huge adjustment and yeah.
Yeah, our new head coach says that winning is habitual, and I get it because like the way you do anything is the way you do everything type of thing, and I feel like that's what you're saying. And I mean, talking about like what you said, that you can have it forever, or those opportunities and memories and how you're shaped forever, and mostly like the long-term success instead of the temporary pleasure. How did you start prioritizing those things, or was it just literally the swimming lane and that was it? Did you ever consider it, or did it just happen?
Yeah, I've never really considered it. I think it was more just like in March, my mom gave me this example of like you're juggling balls and some of them are rubber where if you drop them they'll come back up, and if some of them are glass, if you drop them they break. And so I had a really hard time in March this past year, and some of the things I was juggling were glass and I couldn't keep up with them. And so I think it all goes back to that balance. But I really prioritize like my family's everything. And of course, then there's the people who I love and I surround myself with. And that, swimming comes with that, but sometimes, like, things take over. Of course, and academics. Hello, we're at Cal, so academics. And then, but, sometimes there's just, like, things take priority at different times, and you want, I think it's selfish sometimes to be like, I can't call home tonight because I'm exhausted and I have early practice, like, whatever it is. But it's like, that's what's important at this moment in time, and I can call them in the morning or something like that. So it never really occurred to me on, like, really prioritizing things. I just think it comes naturally on, like, what is going on in my life at the time. Hopefully that made sense.
It made complete sense.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think it's important, and it's like it shows how you've gotten to where you are today, because if you don't have that focus and that prioritization, it's like, all right, then I will go to this birthday party, I will go to the sleepover, and then you start not concentrating enough, and it's all over the place. But that's interesting to hear. The example you gave about the rubber ball is awesome.
Oh, thanks. That's my mom. Shout out, Mom.
Shout out to your mom. Knowing that she was a national team swimmer as well, like, how has her mentorship in a way guided you throughout the years?
Yeah, we had to make some ground rules when I started taking swimming very seriously, where, like, we only talk about it if I bring it up, because I was like, I want you to be my mom, not my coach. So we definitely had those rules, but I definitely love that I can go to her for advice for literally anything. Like, if it's swimming, school, relationships, like, all things above, like, she's always there. And of course she's gone through, she swam in college, she was on the national team, like you said, like, all these things. So being able to work things out or talk about, like, okay, here's my goal, and is this realistic or not, and have that honest conversation with her. And but always knowing that, like, the sun will, if I don't get my goals right, the sun will still shine, my parents will still love me, like, whatever, like, swimming's just swimming. But she's been great. She's my mom. I love my mom. But yeah.
That's awesome that it worked that way. And I mean, I can't relate to the coach and parent part, but I'm assuming it's quite difficult. So that's good that you set those rules.
Yeah.
I'll say. Going into your career at Cal, how and why did you choose Cal? You were the number 1 recruit in the nation, so I'm sure you had plenty of options. Why Cal?
Yeah, it was definitely an experience like no other, the recruiting process. Like, being the number 1 recruit, I could literally, like, kind of pick anywhere. Like, the offer was the same no matter where I went, so that wasn't really the, like, priority, I guess. So I took a trip out here. When I started being recruited, I think was like 2017 or something like that. And that was the year, for some reason, swimming recruitment started so young. Like, that was like, I think the rule used to be like, you get 5 trips your senior year, and everyone was taking unofficial trips their junior year. So that was the year where, like, I was, like, the last person in Florida to commit, and I committed in January of 2017.
Wow.
So I was, like, not behind, I guess, but just, like, I didn't really get, like, the early, like, everyone kind of felt rushed for some reason. And so, anyways, I took an unofficial trip to Cal, and I just absolutely loved the campus. Like, one thing Mom said to me was, like, if, God forbid, you can't swim, would you still be happy if you're at the school for 4 more years or 3, whatever it would be? And so the campus was great. It's very different than what I'm used to, but I also think that, I fell in love with Terry. Like, she's an amazing coach. And she really instilled a lot of confidence in me, which made me confident in making the decision to come here. And then also, being from Florida, I really just kind of wanted to be on my own, kind of find myself and be uncomfortable. And I felt like Cal was kind of like the perfect place to do that. Like, my family's literally across the country. I am in this new place, new environment, and it was just kind of like, how do I adapt to this? I didn't want to be so close to home where I could, like, I don't know, just, like, drive, do my laundry. Like, I wanted to be able to kind of, like, learn all these things on my own. And I think Cal's so unique because it's so close to a big city like SF that like you do have a lot of exposure to like the real world. You're not just like stuck in this campus. So I don't know. Basically, I just fell in love with the campus, and then also the team was just so welcoming and amazing. And then, you know, given I came early, like they made that transition so much easier for me because I had just met them and like had gotten to know them. So, yeah.
You mentioned being uncomfortable and putting yourself in those uncomfortable situations on purpose.
Yeah.
Do you continue to do that today, or what was that experience like for you in terms of growth?
Yeah, well, for growth and like that, I think that's so important to kind of just like put yourself in a new environment and try your best to adapt. Sorry, what did you ask originally?
You're
Sorry.
good. Just like putting yourself in uncomfortable situations intentionally, in terms of growth.
I think, well, today, like if I still do that today, I don't think I do it as much. I mean, I try to. I have really bad social anxiety, so I'll like try, like go up and talk to people and like try to make conversation, and that's uncomfortable for me. So doing that every now and then is like important, and obviously that plays into growth. That's like a life skill you need to have. But I don't think I do it as much. But I also feel like I've been here for 4 years, so I've been able to really adapt and grow into this environment. But yeah, I do think just being uncomfortable is okay. Like I remember like when I was younger and being like, oh, this is really scary. Like I don't want to be here, whatever the situation was. And then, you know, kind of having FOMO after, like, oh, why did I leave or whatever it was. And so then like being here and being able to grow with the team and I don't know, I guess like the campus as a whole, like it's just been really special. And I feel like I'm prepared to like take on whatever. Like I can walk into a room and give a speech, which I never would have done before coming to Cal. But, you know, when you have to talk in front of a class or whatever, like, I don't know, there's just a lot of life skills you kind of learn when you are uncomfortable and you have to, like, overcome that.
Yeah, no, 100%. I completely get that, and I can agree with that. Like, not the FOMO necessarily for me, but, like, the feeling of regret of not doing something instead of, like, well, if I messed up, and that's that. With the social anxiety... Does this cause any social anxiety for you?
No, so it's more like one-on-one conversations are okay, and also like I don't know you that well, so I'm like, okay, I don't know how you're gonna judge me, but sometimes if I know people really well and I know how they're gonna react to something, I'm like, do I tell them this? Like I know how you're gonna react or something like that. But like big crowds or like if there's, like, an event, like, I'll, like, stick with one person. Like, a date, a girl, like, my friend, a teammate, like, whatever it is. So I, like, will just rely on, like, my friends or, like, you know, my teammates or whoever it is. So they help a lot. But it's not, I have to, like, know someone.
Yeah.
I don't like walking into a room and not knowing anyone. I'm always just like, oh, dang it, like, who am I going to talk to? I'm just going to, like, awkwardly stand in this corner and wait for someone to approach me or something like that. But no, this doesn't cause any anxiety,
okay.
So that's good.
Cool. It's just, even what you're saying about perceiving, like, sometimes to me this is all super normal, but putting it into context, like, where we are, the lights, the cameras, the monitors, the mics, everything, I'm like, well, it could be perceived differently, but I'm glad it doesn't cause any social anxiety. With joining Cal, you did already mention that you joined early.
Yeah.
What was that experience like? I think you finished high school online, right? So what was it like finishing early and then coming into being a collegiate swimmer right away?
Yeah, so I think it was like 2018. I think Terry called me in like August and was like, would you be willing, she was like, yeah, you don't have to answer yes or no right now, but she was like, would you be willing to come and compete in the spring because someone had decided to go pro. And she was like, you could even come and like redshirt, like you wouldn't have to compete, but she was just like, would you be open to it? And I immediately was like, heck yeah, like I'm ready. And my parents were like, well, like we don't know. But yeah, so I ended up doing like my whole senior year in like 3 months online. Like I just like cranked through it. And my club coaches really set me up. Like, we were going to all these meets, and I was like, I can't rest, can't taper, I can't shave, like, all this stuff. Like, I need to be, like, in peak shape, ready to go to Cal. So, yeah, I came in January of 2019. Technically, I was supposed to come, like, August of 2019. So, came then, and then I felt like, talk about uncomfortable, like, that was, like, I didn't even have time to feel uncomfortable, because the spring semester is so, like, boom, boom, boom. Like, we go on our training trip to Hawaii, then we come back, school starts, then you got meets every weekend, then conference, then NCs, like, all this stuff. So I didn't even have time to, like, sit and be like, oh, this is amazing, or this sucks, like, whatever. I was literally, like, on the go. Like, my roommate freshman year, like, in the dorm, like, she made a joke, like, last year about how she would always come back and I would just be, like, sleeping. And she was always, like, wondering if I was good. And I was just so exhausted, like, all the time, because it is a big change, right? Like, we were talking about being uncomfortable earlier, but, like, literally I threw myself into this. Like, there was no holding my hand whatsoever, which looking back, I very much appreciate. But at the time, I was like, this is so crazy, like, all this stuff. But yeah, 2019 was really special. It was really amazing. The team had already previously set their goals, like, in the fall. So I kind of came in not obviously kind of knowing what the goals were, but hearing, the seniors ask me to go get coffee, and them sitting with me and being like, here's our goals, like, this is what we're doing. What are you going to swim at NCs, and kind of figuring out. And then, like, where would I bring value, or where would I score points? And then from practices leading on that way, like, the juniors and seniors being like, you shouldn't be doing this stroke right now, we need your points in this. And, like, having so much accountability from my teammates was really special. And us just chasing, like, the national championship. We got second that year, but we were really close to winning. And it was just, like, an experience I'll never forget, because being thrown into NCs that year, I had no idea what was going on. Like, I think it was, like, my first race was the 200 IM, and I got 9th in the prelim, and only top 8 make it back. And I remember I was like, I threw my cap or something, and Terry was like, why are you so upset? And I was like, because I didn't get top 8. Little did I know, top 16 score. I didn't even know. And so I was very happy with that afterwards. And then I got 9th in the final, and then, I got top 8 in my other events. So that was good. And then, yeah, being on a national championship relay, we set the record at NCs, and it was just, like, it was an experience I will literally never forget. But, man, those 3, January to March, was so chaotic. Like, so chaotic. I was just like, okay. But I also, like, I didn't want to show it. I didn't want to show that it was so hard, because I was just like, I asked for this. I committed to this. I can put on a brave face, and I can perform. Like, I knew I could do what was being asked of me. Like, I knew I could. But it was really reassuring to have, like, the girls on the team really believe in me and be like, no, we need you. Like, we actually need your points. So can you do this? And I was like, yeah, like, I'm ready, put me in, like, all this stuff. So yeah, looking back, very chaotic, but I'm so thankful for it, because I think we talked about this last time, but, like, Katie McLaughlin, Amy Bilquist, like, those were girls who I looked up to growing up, and I would have, like, being able to learn from them, even just for those short couple months. And then, Katie ended up staying for the Olympics, so she was here, but being able to, like, learn from them and just be on the team with them was so amazing. Like, it was like, I wouldn't trade that for anything, because they're amazing, like, in every way, not just as swimmers, just as women. They're great role models to have. So
yeah, that's awesome. And we talked about this, like, before we started recording, but in Robin's episode, she mentions that was probably her favorite meet, at least for NCs, if not the COVID Pac-12s, but the NCs, that was her favorite. And I know how special that was, and that relay team, how special it is. But to touch on, before we get into that, to touch on how you look up to them as women, right? Because you guys are obviously amazing swimmers, you're amazing student athletes, but I think something special about your team is how you guys go above and beyond, even in recruiting, like, there's so much more than just being swimmers and just being student athletes. Like, what is that like being surrounded by those women that continuously inspire you and you inspiring them maybe without even knowing so?
It's just empowering. Like, I just think we're a combined program now, but being a whole women's team, like, you're surrounded by greatness in every way. And like you talked, I'm sure you talked about with Robin, like, some girls are so academically driven, and it's amazing to have that outlet, because I'm like, hey, can you read over my paper for me, please? Like, they would do it without hesitation. Or, hey, girl, I need some advice on life. Okay, let's go get coffee. Like, everyone was just really supportive of each other, and I think Terry really instilled this, like, independence. And so you had that, but then when we were together, we were very much one high-performing unit, which I think was just really cool. Yeah, and I think, like, I know I can, if something were to go wrong, I can text all of these different girls and I would get a response back. I just think that 2019 team was so unbelievably special. Like, it was so cool. And I have to agree with Robin on that. That was probably my favorite NC2As ever. Probably all-time favorite meet. Like, it was just so cool seeing, like, everyone come together with one goal. Like, I've honestly I haven't experienced it since. And I think it was just, like, the leadership we had from our seniors. And, like I made a joke one time. We were in, like, a team meeting, and it wasn't, like, the most pleasant team meeting. It was very much like, come on, girls, like, we gotta kind of get your head out of your butt type of talk. And I remember I would just, like, look over to, like, Amy or Katie or even Abby, Maddie, like, all these girls, and if they didn't react, if they weren't like, oh my god, or if they were just sitting there, like, taking in what our coach was saying, I was like, okay, I don't need to freak out. I was like, if they're not freaking out, I don't need to freak out. Everything's fine. So it's just kind of like having that type of, I don't know, it is a relationship. I don't know how I would describe it, but just like, I don't want to say family because that's so cheesy, but in a way, maybe. But just maybe sisterhood is, like, a better way to say it. But it was just, like, it's such a cool experience.
Do you think that empowerment can still happen with a dual program?
I think so. I mean, I'm not training really in the combined program right now. I've heard from girls that they love training with the guys because they have so much energy. Like, it's insane. Like, the testosterone, I'm like, okay, let's calm it down. But, yeah, I do think it can come. I think, like, if the girls embrace the energy that the guys give and can, like, reciprocate it, it can be really special. It can be something really cool. And I think, like, oh my gosh, I take advantage of it so much, like, being able to train with, like next to Bjorn, and ask him questions, like, and learn from him, or even, like, you know, we have, like, Ryan Murphy, who's a pro, like, they're so smart, like, they're so intelligent with the sport, so you can ask them anything, and it's you can always be learning something from them, and guys swim so differently than girls, like, in the way their movements in the water, like, guys can just, like, power through it. Girls, we kind of have to finesse it a little more. Like, we don't have that much strength. So I think it's really cool watching them and working with them technique-wise. But I think something like that could happen. I don't know. It's definitely tough, and it's new for everyone, so it's definitely going to take some time. But I think it could happen for sure.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. That's awesome that you were even saying that, and to talk about that meet and how that first experience was for you. Again, Robin mentioned that specific relay and how Abby was injured, and you guys still pushed through it. Do you want to talk about that first championship for you?
Yeah. So back in the day, so 2019, you used to do relays, prelim, and final. So you'd have to qualify for the finals. Unpopular opinion, we should bring that back, because I think that brings a whole new level to the sport, and also, like, talk about, like, international meets. Like, you have to do that in international meets, so why wouldn't we do that at an NC2As? But, so I was not originally supposed to be on that relay. Robin was. I split faster than she did in the morning. So I got the honor of being on the finals relay. That was really nerve-wracking, actually, but yeah, it was I was not expecting us to go that fast. Like, when Abby finished, which, yeah, she hurt her elbow or something, like, on a finish, so she had to get taped up, and I had to lead off because I was, like, the young freshman, and I couldn't time the relay start great yet, like the step over. I'd never done that before. My reaction time was really slow. So Tara's like, yeah, you're leading off. And I was like, oh, okay. Like, just, okay, like, that's a lot, but okay. So I let off, and I went a little slower than I did in the prelim, but I also was like, I want to make this freaking relay. So I kind of flew. And then I don't even know who was second. Who was second? Shit. Oh, I think it was Amy. Amy Bilquist, and then Katie, and then Abby anchored. And I think when Abby touched the wall and we looked up at the scoreboard, Katie was just so excited we won, and I was like, we got the American record! I was like screaming. I was jumping up and down. I was like, no freaking way! And we all hugged, and I was like crying. Like, I don't know what came over me, but I just started bawling because I've never felt anything like that before. Like, forget the record, forget, like, our splits, like, whatever it was. Like, being able to just do that with such an amazing group of girls was, like, unbelievable. And I just, like, even Katie was like, we went to change, like, out of our tech states, and Katie was like, how did we go that fast? I'm like, I don't know. That's, like, something came over y'all because I didn't go that much faster, but y'all flew. Yeah, that was really cool. And then I just, like, we got our little trophy or whatever, and then, like, going back to the team, everyone just being, like, so proud, like, that was, yeah, just that, like, sense that I was referring, I don't know what to call it, but, like, it was just, like, the coolest thing ever. And then, Abby was taped, so it didn't count as an American record, but it did count as, like, the NCAA record and everything like that, and was recently broken this past year, but that was still something that I'll never forget. It was really cool.
So because of the tape, it couldn't be an American record?
Yeah, it was some athletic tape that wasn't legal. I mean, not legal or illegal, but it was just like, there are certain types of tape you can use, and it was like one type that she used wasn't, and so it counted. It was some dumb thing, and I was just like, okay, if anything, that was drag, so come on, like, yeah. But it's okay. But yeah, well, it counts in my books. It counted, okay.
Yeah, maybe not the American record for the people, but in our hearts for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, that's an amazing first experience for you, literally coming in first 3 months.
Yeah.
I remember you said last time that, I mean, you already mentioned that your mom gave you the advice of, if you can't swim, would you still go to school here? So that was all with the swimming part. But take me through what it was like, #1 public university, and not even realizing that until you got here.
Yeah, this is like the biggest LOL because it was my first, first of all, because I decided to come, like, not last minute, but, like, I missed priority enrollment because I wasn't, like, a current student athlete or anything, so I got stuck with, like, these weird classes, and one of them was an MCB class, and if you know, those are so hard to count, but I was like, okay, like, I'll just take it. It sounds interesting, cool. So my first ever college lecture, I'm sitting, and the professor starts going on, introducing himself in the class, like, all this stuff, and then he's like, I just think, like, you guys should be so proud at the #1 university in the world. And I remember I was, like, writing notes, and I was like, what? And I, like, turned to the girl next to me. I'm like, what did he just say? She was like, #1 public university in the world. I was like, that's Cal? I had literally no idea. And I found out on my first lecture hall ever. And I was just like, okay. And then, like, I'm sure people in my life probably get so annoyed because I'll be like, yeah, I'm at the #1 public university in the world, like, and I'm sure everyone's like, shut up, like, we know, like, people back home or whatever, but I was, like, not knowing that, and then finding out, like, I got this whole new sense of, like, pride in academics where, like, I don't know, like, I took school, I think everyone takes school as seriously as they can in high school, like, it's not crazy, at least my high school wasn't, like, crazy hard or anything, so I was, like, I was doing fine, kind of, like, chilling, but then I was pretty much, like, no, like, I need to do good because I've always gotten A's, and then coming here, it's kind of like, oh, okay, your first exam doesn't go how you think it will or whatever. And also, like, kind of bringing it back to athletics, like, the Cal swim team had the highest GPA for, like, however many semesters in a row when I got here. And I was like, I am not going to be the one that takes that. Like, I was like, there is no way I'm going to be the one that, like, ruins that streak. So, yeah, I definitely took a lot of pride in academics when I got here, even though I was not expecting to be at the number one public university in the world. But, yeah, definitely. I mean, academics are important to me, but definitely when you're, like, 16, going through the recruiting process, I'm kind of, like, swimming, yeah. Like, I'm not, like, I'm going to go to med school. Like, you know what I mean? It's, like, you kind of grow into that. Like, you figure out what you want to do by taking classes and networking and, like, all this stuff. So, yeah, that's such an embarrassing story. But, yeah, that's how I found out.
Well, at least you made it through, yeah?
Yeah. I'm graduating, thank God. Oh my gosh, that's so funny.
Yeah, but I mean, it's interesting because it goes back to what you were saying at the beginning of, like, how seriously you took everything and the standards you set for yourself, like, even now, right? Like, you talked about being in the same pool as people you looked up to right now, even if you're training next to guys like Bjorn, right? Like, those standards just keep rising and rising, and it's the same thing for school. Like, if you're going to Cal, you're going to start caring about academics even more, trying even harder, because that's what everybody around you is doing. I don't necessarily believe that you are equal to the 5 people you hang out with, or the average of the 5 people you hang out with, but it kind of does make sense. It does play an impact on who you are, I guess, and being inspired by that greatness around you.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely think, too, like, being an athlete at an institution like this, like, everything's a competition. Like, especially when it comes to grades, like, you literally just have to compete with the people around you, like, for the test. You know what I mean? Like, set the curve, like, whatever it is. Like, you have to be better than the people next to you, and that goes same for athletics. Like, it's the same mindset. So, yeah, definitely surrounded by a lot of greatness over here in California.
Yeah, and it's super interesting how, like, the iron sharpens iron type of thing, or, like, but I think it's our own personal improvement, even that, right? Like, without a ruler, you can't make a crooked line straight, and it's like finding those rulers in your life per se, whether it's swimming or academics for the curve or the time in the pool, whatever it is. But I think it's one of the most powerful things I've learned from here, and that I'm learning from you, right? Like, setting yourself up in that uncomfortable situation or space, whether you know it or don't know that you're at the number one public, like, putting yourself in those situations just to be able to grow. Super powerful.
Yeah, I definitely think, too, like, after NCs, like, in 2019, I definitely was like, oh my God, I can breathe. Like, I was like, I went home for spring break. Like, I could take a deep breath. And then when I came back, I was like, okay, actually, it's okay to ask for help. So, I was like, because that's something, like, I used to think of that as, like, a weakness if I needed to be like, I need the day off practice, or, like, I need someone to help me with this homework or study for a test, whatever. Like, I would be really embarrassed to ask for things like that growing up, and I think that comes from, maybe it's a sense of pride, maybe it's me trying to be independent, like, whatever it was, I really struggled with asking for help. And so I think that was something that I really had to learn that first semester. Even, like, those first 3 months, I kind of gave myself the grace of not asking, because I was so just, like, trying to figure it out and, like, do it on my own type of thing. And I had that support, but actually asking for help, one, takes a lot of guts. It's really hard to ask for help, in my opinion. And so doing that, like, yeah, that was a whole nother growth thing. Like, that first couple months at being at Cal, like, it's okay. Like, it's, you know what I mean? Like, everyone needs help every now and then. So asking for it, like, there's no problem with that. So, yeah.
In a full circle moment, if you're looking at a freshman or anybody that's younger than you that's struggling to ask for help, what would you tell them, or what advice would you give?
I think just what I just said, like, it's okay. Like, we've all been there where we've needed an extra hand of support, or shoulder to cry on, like, whatever it is. Like, it's okay to ask for help. And then also, like, there's so many resources, whether that's, like, the athletic trainer, there's a tutoring service for athletes, like, all this different stuff. Like, I would almost, like, recommend asking that like on your recruiting trip. Like if I need this extra support, is it offered at this university, yes or no? Like all those things play such a role in to your development and growth as a person and as an athlete and as a student. Like you have all these different aspects of your life. And going back to like that juggling metaphor, like you're juggling a lot of things in college, like your mental health, your physical health, your athletics, academics, relationships, like you're juggling a lot. And so I think like it's okay to like kind of sit back and be like, okay, these areas in my life are good, I need help in these ones, what resources do I have that can help me succeed in those? And I'm not talking about, well, maybe you could just like have that one friend that you just can like vent to, which is like good, but actually doing something proactive kind of goes a long way. So
yeah, no, that's awesome that you even brought that up, and thank you for sharing that from on behalf of everyone.
No worries.
Moving forward, it's super interesting because technically we should be in the same class. Obviously you came in a bit early.
Yeah.
You complete a year, then COVID hits, like
right.
when Pac-12s are looking good. But I mentioned last time, like I did listen to that one podcast about like that you did, I believe it was with Swam, if I'm not wrong, about like Isabel Ivey more than a swimmer. Isabel Ivey, the person, right? Like I remember you said that you had 3 t-shirts with you to go to the Olympic Training Center, and you ended up staying 8 months in Florida, and how much you grew thanks to that, and how you found yourself like expressing yourself, whether that was like obviously with swimming in school, but there was the painting, the journaling, the cooking, the reading. Is that something you still practice today? Like what did you take away from that?
Yeah, I definitely, yeah. So, well, I guess, like NC's got canceled, and we were all supposed to say, the Olympics were still on, so we were all like getting ready to go to the OTC to like train or whatever. But I was in such a like bad place that Terry was like, maybe you should just go home for a couple of days. So I was supposed to go home for like a weekend and then fly to the OTC, and all my belongings are in California. Like when I came out here for school, like all my clothes, everything I brought with me. So yeah, I packed like literally like 3 or 4 t-shirts and like pajamas and went home, and then, the OTC shut down, the Olympics were canceled, like all this stuff. So yeah, I was very much stuck home, and I found myself like doing things that I normally would not have the time for, being this full-time student athlete. So it was definitely really empowering to do things that I love and kind of, build relationships with people who I normally don't get to spend a lot of time with, or, my family, like just really enjoying that time with them. Do I still do these things today? I actually noticed in March that I had stopped doing a lot of the things that I realized brought me joy. And it kind of took a lot in my personal life for me to get to that point of just like really struggling in March. So so there were a lot of things I did, like journaling or painting, like stuff like that really did kind of make me feel more human than an athlete. And I think that like one of the breaking points, this is really personal, one of the breaking points that I experienced when I was just like realized I wasn't okay was it was in between Pac-12s and NCs, and I was with like a group of the girls on the team, and it was just like a venting session. When you have those with like your teammates and you're just like, man, it's really hard right now, but like NCs are so close, like whatever. So I was just like in that circle, like, yeah. And I looked to one of the girls and I was like, I'm actually really struggling too. I had a lot of stuff going on in my personal life, like all this stuff. And I was just like, yeah, I'm really struggling. And this girl looked at me and goes, well, it doesn't really matter if you're struggling because you're swimming well. And I remember just being like, well, no, because I'm not just these points that I score at a meet. I'm a person, I'm human who has emotions. So yeah, I actually took 5 months off out of the pool to focus on my mental health and well-being, and I found myself going back to those things I did during the pandemic. So I actually was really focusing on myself and was journaling, like doing all these things, having a lot of really hard conversations, and found myself missing the pool. So that was when I decided to go back, was when I was like, okay, I'm ready. Like I feel better about like everything that happened and stuff that's still going on, but I'm handling it in a healthy way. I'm coping in a healthy way. So yeah, it definitely was like a turn of events. Sorry, that kind of got a little like dark, but yeah, I definitely like, I had to be reminded of like these things that, yeah, I did discover about myself. And although I put those things on pause, this is what happened when I did. And so we went back to those to kind of like, you know, grow in a better way.
That's not bad at all. I honestly really appreciate it and appreciate your confidence with this story as well, because just yesterday I was recording with Elise Bion. She is a gymnast here.
Yeah.
Her episode's going to come out after this due to reasons that we'll talk about at the end. But we were literally talking about that, like handling hard better, her mental health journey. She's a huge mental health advocate here at Cal. Like she's worked on a lot of projects, both, I mean, here in the Pac-12 and nationally at this point for mental health within student athletes, and it's been a trend.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, no, with the things she's doing, as well as with Jam Sheehan, he's the kicker on the football team, or the punter, my bad, Jam. And they've worked so hard. They're two of my closest friends here, and everything they've done, and we were just talking about it yesterday, and I'm starting mental health projects as well, like within the podcast outside of it. So I appreciate you bringing that up and like finding that. I definitely went through my own things mental health wise as well, especially during the pandemic. It was mostly just an identity crisis for me and anxiety. But in the same way as you, I found myself doing things that I don't usually have the time for. You took this 5-month break to be able to do that. Do you think there's a way to find balance in being able to do it
100%.
as an athlete?
Yeah, 100%. I think I just got to the like an ultimate breaking point. Like I had so many things out of nowhere just like really take my full like attention. Like it was just crazy, for a lack of a better word. Like it was chaotic. But it was like kind of like freshman year almost, like I didn't have time to process it because it all happened in between Pac-12s and NCs, which is 2 weeks. And in that time, you're like, oh my God, like I'm getting ready for NCs. Like you can't really focus on anything else. So after NCs, I went home for like a week and I just like didn't leave my bed, and that's okay. Like that's what I needed to do. But yeah, there's definitely a way to have a healthy balance. I think I kind of waited too long to do that. So I just like broke, literally. And then that resulted in a 5-month break. I think like Terry used to tell us like, fill your well. And so we would like, we wouldn't swim on Wednesdays so that we could do something productive for ourselves, whether that was like literally school, or you could go do something fun. Like a lot of girls would like go to a farmer's market or picnic or go to the city for lunch, like stuff like that. So it's like, I think giving yourself the grace of like, it's okay to take a day or 2 or 5 months for yourself. Like it's totally okay. I think a lot of people, like I definitely got scared at one point where I was like, oh my gosh, I've been out of the water for so long. Like there's some phrase of like every day you're out of the water, it takes like 3 to get back, like something like that. So I was like, oh, F everything. Like I'm going to be so out of shape. Like, and then I remember having a conversation with Mom, and she was just like, well, maybe you just need it, or maybe you're done swimming and that's okay. And I was like, yeah. And so, then like 2 more months go by and I'm still like, I'm getting like happier, feeling like myself again. And then it's like, I miss the water. Okay, let's go back in the water. Like I think it takes like missing something to want to go back to it, instead of feeling like you have to go to practice every day, or you have to do this, or you have to perform academically or athletically, like all this stuff. So there definitely is that balance. And I think like Terry had a really good philosophy with like giving us that Wednesday, but even like weekends, like some college people go out on the weekends and hit the bars and stuff. And I'm just like, I'm going to watch a movie, or I'm going to read a book, or Alicia and I will make dinner at her house, like whatever it is. Like we'll just kind of chill, and that's like my personal preference. But people fill their wells in different ways, and that's okay too. But yeah, I definitely think it can be a more frequent thing. It doesn't need to be like this dramatic. Like, my experience is so different than like what people probably experience on the regular. So it's just like, yeah, take a break every now and then. It's okay. Like, the world's not going to end.
Yeah, I mean, and filling your well, I think, is seasonal, however long the season can be. Like, for me, that's sometimes what you're describing, 100% my season.
Yeah.
Sometimes it is going out, like, and it just depends on where I'm at in certain moments, I guess, and I think everybody does as well. I wouldn't say that's weird, or I think you'd be surprised by knowing how many people enjoy that, watching that movie, just making that dinner, or going out to dinner. Even here, like, you saw some of my housemates, like, we just sit down, and I won't always join them depending on the time or how much work I have, but they're just watching a movie and just hanging out, and it's like,
so nice.
It's little things like that, I think, that make that difference. You were mentioning, and I was gonna obviously ask about this back in March, but now it makes sense why you skipped like team trials for the U.S. national team in April and things like that. And you mentioned finding that balance even today. I'm not necessarily a religious person. I was raised that way, but I'm not necessarily that way anymore. But I do appreciate the idea of a Sabbath, right? Like, just taking a day, whether it's a Wednesday, a Saturday, a Sunday, whatever day it is, to find that balance again. But something that caught my attention was when that girl told you that you're swimming well, so it's okay. Kind of why I was asking about how seriously you took it from a very young age. Like, I feel like elite athletes, to a certain extent, believe that their worth is however they're performing in the pool, on the field, on the court, wherever it is. Do you think that's true, like being surrounded by elite athletes? Do you think that's a common trend that should be broken?
Yeah, I think so. And I think that, like, I've definitely experienced that, where it's like, okay, can I cuss on this?
You can say whatever you want. This is your episode.
I was like, if I'm a shit swim, I'm a shit person type of thing. And it's like, whoa, no. Like, it's like, and that's like, that teammate that said that to me, that's when I was like, I am so much more than a swimmer. And that's when I, like, literally, like, flashed back to, like, the pandemic, and I realized, like, all these things I was doing, like, friendships, like, whatever it was. Like, it's just, like, I feel like we're so in it day to day with our sport and whatever, other things you have going on, that it's often it's common to forget, like, that it's not just who you are, like, and I think swimming in particular can be really hard, because it's all year round, and also then it's not just all year round, but you're constantly being compared to other people, because it's very, it's like, I don't even know the word, it's just like everything's time-based, I guess, is, like, the easiest way to put it, that, like, if you're out-touched by .01, like, whatever, that's the difference between, like, making a team and not. And so I feel like this past summer, even, like, watching the team trials and everything, like, a lot of people who had made teams before didn't make teams this year. So it was just, like, really interesting kind of then seeing a lot of people did actually take breaks. A lot of elite athletes, or the top swimmers in the U.S., took breaks after team trials or even after Worlds, just to kind of, like, regroup. And I think that that's really important. But yeah, I think it's very easy, especially when, NIL. I think NIL is a great thing, but when money starts getting involved in any way, even as, like, a pro athlete, I feel like that can add a whole other pressure of, like, you have to look like this perfect person all the time, and you have to have your stuff together, and you have to win because you're making your living off of your athletic performance. And so I think that's when, like, performance anxiety, like, stuff like that can come into play for sure. Yeah. I guess back to your question, yes, I think that needs to be broken. Like, this whole thing that, like, your performance relates, or is, like, who you are, because you're so much more than just, like, one race or one soccer game or whatever it is. So, yeah. Yeah,
that makes full sense. And this is out of genuine curiosity, because, one, I'm not an elite athlete, but two, the work that I've seen through Elise and Jam and everything they do do you think there is that mental health stigma still going around? Because, like, I was talking about it yesterday with Elise. You see people like Simone Biles and all these humongous names start opening up and talking about it, to the point where, at least since I'm so comfortable with it, I feel like, oh, no, there's no more stigma. But through your experience, do you think there's still a mental health stigma with elite athletes?
I think there's a really great opportunity being presented right now with, like, everyone talking about it, and I definitely think things are getting better. I do think that a lot of people, in particular college athletes, so not necessarily pro athletes, but college athletes, there is a stigma, because I feel like as soon as you open your mouth about it, sometimes it's like, okay, well, she's broken, so she's not going to travel this weekend. Or, you know, you kind of get pulled from things, and which can be the right thing to do sometimes, like definitely like pulling an athlete or something like that. But I think people get scared of that type of, not repercussion, but just like stuff like that going on, where it's like, do I want to ask for help, or is this the right time? Like stuff like that. So it's definitely like, I do think it's being talked about a lot more thanks to people like Simone Biles, or even like there's a swimmer who recently took a break and is completely off social media, and no one really knows what he's doing, but all we know is he's okay and he's on a break. And it's like stuff like that is opening the conversation. So yeah, I definitely think it's important. And it's not easy to talk about. Like it's a really uncomfortable and a really hard conversation to have, especially like because I don't want to say there is a stigma, because I like to think more of people. But yeah, people definitely feel that type of like judgment for speaking out about it. So. Yeah,
no, I completely get that. And maybe there isn't a stigma, but maybe people think there is. And to a certain extent, I mean, it's a similar thing, and I get that there may be people speaking out about it. Or I wanted to do a swimming reference, but I didn't think of one. But to your point of social media, that's something I honestly noticed. Like, the one time I sent you the previous thing that we recorded, and I like reached out again, like, hey, like, I don't know if you got the text or not, and you were like, sorry, I've had my phone off or anything.
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, well, like you mentioned, we're not really that close, and that's kind of the theme with the podcast, right? But still, like, me reaching out and you were like, my phone is off. Or another thing I've noticed, which is super interesting and that I admire you being able to balance this out, is like being a bit under 4,000 followers, but only following 100 people. And I figured, like, maybe that's something to do with social media and mental health, which plays a humongous role, honestly. Like, is that the reasoning behind it?
It's part of it, for sure. Like, I think that, social media is so fake half the time that it's, I can't stand it. Also, like, during my break this summer, I just realized that, like, I was so unhappy whenever I would go on my phone. Like, I would spiral. I would see something, it would piss me off or hurt my feelings, or, like, literally make me just feel so bad about myself that I was like, okay, see ya. I don't think I went on Instagram for, like, 3 months at one point, which was, like, the longest I've ever been off of it. In regards of the, like, following thing, I think I was following so many people. And I remember I think it was, like, when I went back on Instagram after a couple months, I was like, someone popped up, and I was like, why do I follow this person? I haven't talked to them in, like, a couple years. Like, what's the point? And so I followed someone today, so it put me at 100. And I realized that it's, like, I'm only going to follow people, A, who are my family, and B, who are people who I talk to, like, weekly. Or monthly in some cases. Like, during my break, like, I had one teammate, Sarah DeMecco, shout out. She texted me, like, every week asking if I was okay, or, like, how's home? Did you surf today? Like, stuff like that. And I was like, okay, thanks, Sarah. Love you, girl. Like, I'm going to keep following you. There's some teammates who I don't follow. And it's not personal. It's just, it doesn't mean I don't like you. It's just, like, you're not someone who I talk to daily. You're not someone, like, in my corner, per se, like, something like that. So it's, like, I just want to surround myself. My great-grandma, I call her Granny. Her name's Edith. She used to tell me, like, surround yourself with people who embrace your light and don't make you dim it. And so that's kind of what I was doing, in the sense of, like, how many people I follow or whatever. Like, I'm only gonna surround myself with people who make me feel good about myself and don't compare me to others and embrace my light. And I don't have to, like, be someone I'm not around them. I can be authentically me, and that's okay. So, yeah, I guess that explains, like, the following thing, but yeah.
That's absolutely amazing. I love that. I really love that. And I think, yeah, like, I have struggled with that before. Like, why am I following all these people or these accounts or things like that? And there's times that, I mean, at least for me, I follow way more people, so it's like, I don't want to go through the entire list. But sometimes it's like something comes up and it's like, I don't need to be following them. And I mean, that's awesome from Sarah. She's an awesome person. Shout out Sarah.
She's so great.
But like, even without it being personified, like, just having people like that in your corner, in your life, it's important. And it goes back to what you were saying of the birthday party, the sleepover. Like, it's prioritize what you need. And if social media, that's how it's going to work for you, then that's fine, right? Like, if it's the 100 people, that's you, and that's fine.
Yeah.
Like, in a way, maybe for me it's not the following, but it's how I treat my social media. It was during the pandemic. I told you last time, like, when I started this, and for me, this is an excuse to meet people that I think are cool, right? Like, this is basically what I'm doing. But that's all I post about now. And it's like, well, why don't you post something else a bit more personal or things like that? And it's like, well, do people need to be knowing about this? Probably not.
But it's also like, do you want people to know that, like, really deep personal stuff? Like, it's like, that opens, like, a whole other door to, like, your podcast if you were to do that. Like, and that's, like, putting yourself in a vulnerable position, which, like, a lot of people struggle. That's why, like, when it comes to social media, when I was saying, like, half of it's fake, because no one really talks about, like, oh, today I cried for 3 hours. Like, it's like, oh my gosh, I'm at the beach with my friends. Like, it's stuff like that, you know what I mean?
Exactly. Like, that's what changed with my posting. Because I remember, you're in the pandemic, there's nothing to post about in terms of, oh, I'm hanging out with people, I'm doing all these cool things. Yeah. And I started posting videos, not podcasts, just videos of what I thought and reflections. And as you can tell, I like to talk a lot. So that's what I was doing to the camera. And I got to the point where I'm like, I don't need to be sharing. And sometimes I do share just for the memories today, but it's 95% of what I post is the podcast. And if you're going to be sharing personal things, I'll share something personal and I'll open up, step up in the uncomfortable space. But same, like, with the podcast, right? Like, something that happened to me was I used to post with my ex. Obviously, I said ex, so we broke up at one point. As soon as those posts came down, people that I hadn't talked to in years reaching out, oh, are you guys not together anymore? Oh, are you guys, like, did you break up? And I'm like, why do you care? Yeah. Why are you even asking me? Like, dude, I haven't talked to you in years and you're asking me this? Like, why would you care? And then, two, how do you know? Obviously, because I posted it on social media. And I've talked about this with friends and stuff. It's like, I don't know if I want to be posting these personal things for the whole world to know, because this is my life. Like, you don't don't need to be knowing this. So it's a hard balance, but everybody does it their own way, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm definitely, like, on the private side where, like, I don't love sharing, like, relationships, like, stuff like that. Like, I prefer that to be, like, a one-on-one thing or a group thing, like, whatever the case is. So I definitely, like, I can relate to that, because it's definitely overwhelming when you get messages like that from people out of the blue and you're like, I don't even remember, how do I know you? Elementary school? Oh, okay. Like, something really ridiculous like that. So it's definitely, ridiculous. And I think, like, even when I unfollowed a lot of people, I had so many people just get pissed. And I was like, okay, like, you know, like, instead of talking to me, they were talking to each other, which is fine. And I remember, like, I talked to the team recently, and I was just like, it wasn't personal. Like, I like you as a person. Like, are we friends? Like, this is my thing. There is no one in this world that I, like, hate or dislike or anything. It's very simple to me, where it's like, we either vibe or we don't. And if we don't vibe, that is A-okay. We have same friends, cool. Like, we're teammates, cool. But we don't have to be best friends all the time. And I think social media and even just relationships in general have that, like, really unhealthy relationship where it's like an unfollow means, like, you are hated. And it's like, no, like, we can be friends and friendly, but I just, like, I don't care to see some things, or I don't talk to you regularly, so why would I, like, try to keep updated with your life, like, stuff like that. Like, it's there needs to, talk about balance, there needs to be a balance with that, because it's just, like, this whole thing of, like, oh my gosh, she hates me, she unfollows me. Like, no, I don't hate anyone. I love everyone. I love people. Like, that is so far from the truth. So definitely explaining that, oh my god, was so hard, but, and maybe they get it, maybe they don't, but it's what I needed to do in the moment, and I only wanted to, like, be surrounded by whatever people. I think, like, maybe 2 months ago, I think I was literally at, like, 85 people that I was following. I was like, this is perfect. Like, this is, like, some days nothing had been posted, and I was like, this is great. I don't need everyone posting everything every day. So it's just, like, I don't know. Yeah, balance. Oh my gosh. That is, like, the theme of this podcast. Balance and growth. That is, like, what a hot take. That's great.
No, that's awesome. I mean, it's something I was not expecting it from this episode at all, but like I said, like yesterday I recorded with Elise. I have a few other people that I'm going to be recording with, specifically telling me, like, I want to be talking about these things, and it's like,
that's great.
Awesome. Like, if I can use this for that, if I could be posting about that, then that's awesome, and hopefully it works. But thank you for sharing that. It was just super interesting, because rarely do you see it from people, and I saw that and I'm like, that's pretty cool. Like, it's something that's unique, and I think it's healthy as well. It's like an approach I take, right, to text messages is, like, my control is over sending a text message, but every time I send a text message, I don't expect a reply, and it's that sort of thing. Same with the follow. If I'm going to follow someone, like, I remember growing up, I would literally see, like, oh, I followed them. If they didn't follow back, I would unfollow. And it's like, that's so stupid.
Or do you remember, like, the, like, comments, like, or comment for a follow back, or, like, posts like that, or, like, comment for a TPH, like, all those things. Like, that was, like, we were in middle school. Like, we were literal infants when that was a thing. And it's so ridiculous that, like, that is what stuck through social media, was, like, this, like expectation, like you were saying, of, like, following back. And it's, oh my god, I hate social media. It's so silly.
Rate for rate, slide up for an honest opinion. It's like, dude, and I can't say I didn't do that. Like, at some point I feel like everybody did. But yeah, that's just what shaped me today, and I don't know, we have different approaches to it, but I'm glad we talked about it and that happened. With where you were at as a swimmer, going back to swimming.
Oh yeah.
You're a swimmer, by the way.
Yeah. Cool.
Going back to that and your experience this past year, obviously, like, 2021 was a good year for you in terms of, you guys were Pac-12 champions, you were swimmer of the year. Things are on a higher note. We had that weird experience with COVID, but to tie it all together in terms of swimming this past year, I remember that, like, I watch you guys race all the time. Like, it's something I actually enjoy watching, and it's weird because I'm your guys' age and I go to the same school, and I'm also a student athlete in the same athletic department, but I'm a fan. Like, I'm genuinely a fan. So I was watching, and I remember you got your PR, and you got third place in the 200 IM, and a great PR in 153.02, right? But what caught my eye, again, sorry, but going back to the social media, was the caption of "Cheers to the memories and friendships made this season." And you posted with the swimmer, I believe it was Taylor Ruck?
Yeah, from Stanford.
Yeah, from Stanford. One, from Stanford, but two, she beat you in that event. And it's like...
The 200 freestyle.
200 freestyle, my bad.
She won, I got second.
There we go. Yeah, we're talking about that one instead. First and second, and you choose to post that picture with that caption, and not that I'm trying to do the social media part, but your take on that, right? Like, you were talking about how competitive you are, how it's so easy to compare with times, with results, with things like that. What changed there?
I guess maybe there was, like that post was hiding some things. If that NCs, I went best times in everything except one race, including relay splits. Like, I had my highest place ever. I got bumped out of the A final by Leah Thomas in the 100 free. She got 8th, I got 9th. So that was really disappointing. But that was like the one event that I struggled with. But that NC's was I was not happy at all. Like, I just was like, I didn't want to be there. I was swimming, like, at the best meet of my life, probably, and I just, like, couldn't care less. Taylor, so the 2 free, I really wanted to win that, and I was really close to winning, but I honestly wouldn't have wanted to lose to anyone else. She's an amazing person. She swims for Stanford, so, okay, like, there's that whole thing, but, like, I don't want to share her story because it's not my story to tell, but she's done a lot of interviews about, like, an eating disorder she had, like, how much she struggled mentally, like, stuff like that, and having her come back and win, like, I just thought was, like, the most amazing thing, like, and she's just she's such a sweet girl, like, she's just amazing, so I think, like, I was so happy for her that she won, honestly, like, I was like, this is so cool that you were able to, like, struggle so much and then come back, and this is just amazing. And you know, it wasn't her best time or anything, but like, she still won. And yeah, so I guess, like, cheers to the friendships or whatever. Like, I definitely learned a lot this past season in regards to my swimming. I was definitely, like, really confident in myself, and I was training the fastest I've ever trained. Did make a lot of friendships, Taylor being one. She's amazing. And then, yeah, I don't know. I was just trying to think of a caption probably, and I said that, but I, like, yeah, like, I was trying to look for something to celebrate, if that makes sense, because I wasn't thrilled. Like, I wasn't happy, I guess. I wasn't, like, I didn't want to celebrate myself, so I was like, okay, what happened this year? I had a lot of good memories. I had a lot of shit memories, too, but I had a lot of really good memories, and I made a lot of friendships. I lost a lot of friendships too. So I was just like, maybe I should just focus on the good. And I guess that's what that caption was. But yeah, I mean, it was definitely like a roller. I mean, you can look at the results like of like our team and stuff. Like, it was definitely a roller coaster of a meet for everyone. And we didn't perform as a team as we would have liked. I personally was really happy with my performance. I guess looking back, in the moment, I didn't want to be there, but in the moment, I was like, looking back, I'm happy with how I swam and how I fought and how much effort I gave. But yeah, it was definitely not the most fun meet, especially like if you compare to like 2019, right? Like, no. And that's something I need to be better at, of like not comparing stuff like that, or, you know, just not comparing at all. But yeah, it was definitely roller coaster of a meet, but yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, my point was never to attack the caption or the social media part at all, but rather like what it represents, right? Yeah. I was talking about this with Elise yesterday. I'm probably gonna mispronounce the words, but there are 2 German words. The first one is Schadenfreude, which is like taking joy in somebody else's misery or failure or things like that. But then there's the antonym to that, which I think is fascinating, which is Freudenfreude, which is like being happy for other people's success. Yeah. And in a way, it's like that's what you were representing with Taylor, I guess, right? And I think it's like such a beautiful thing to be able to feel in life, like separate to the interview yesterday, but Elise was the one that taught me that. We ended up competing for a role at a club here, and we were both running for the same place or same role. And it was that competition, but when we were presenting, I was like, if you win, like, that's fine. Yeah. That's okay. We're very good friends, and I gave her shit about this yesterday, but I ended up beating her. But still, it was like looking back to that moment, like if she would have beaten me, that would have been okay. And it's nice that you found that balance. My question to you now is, in events such as the 2IM, which I do believe that was the 3rd place.
Yes, it was, yeah.
But you PR.
Yeah.
What's that balance like for you? Because I get that there's a competition, but that's your PR. Like, how do you find joy in that? Or do you?
You mean in, like, getting a 3rd place and a best time?
Well, because you're saying, like, well, I would have wanted to to do better in certain races.
for sure.
But you still got a best time, right?
Yeah, I think it's like, I guess like in swimming, like obviously PRs are huge, like they're great, but it's more about placement for points, right? For like team scores and stuff. So I guess like sometimes I struggle with that where it's like, you know, 2 free, for example, damn, I wish I would have won. I got second though, and Taylor won, so that's great. Like it's like, I really had to like reframe my mindset because I think what you just said is so important of like, you don't necessarily, like I choose to celebrate other people. You don't have to necessarily do that, but it's so much better than like being angry at someone or being angry at yourself for like not doing better, like whatever it is, like changing your mindset to a positive way of like, I don't know, hopefully this is making sense, but just like I don't know why you wouldn't celebrate. Like it's an NC2A championship. I got my highest place ever, which is second. She won. Like maybe I'm not thrilled with myself, but oh my gosh, she just won. Like that's amazing. So it's like, I don't know, like I choose to be happy for others more so than I do myself sometimes, which has its good and bad aspects to it for sure. But I think like, yeah, going back to what you said, like third place PR, it was all right. Like I guess like going into NC2As, I set goals of placement and I wanted to be top 3 in the 2IM. So I was happy with that. Looking back, I was happy. In the moment, I was pissed. Looking back, I can be proud of that. And like, of course, going to best time, especially because I usually don't know what I'm swimming until like after Pac-12s probably, like when we have to do the entries and stuff. So not knowing if I was even going to do the 2IM, because I hate training IM. It is so hard. Like I refuse to train breaststroke. Like it's just not my thing. So getting third place, not training breaststroke, like I'll take it. Like you know what I mean? Like it was good. It was good. I can look back and be like, okay, that was a good swim. I'm happy with that. But in the moment, yeah, you definitely have to like, I think NCs, I don't know about other sports, maybe basketball, but like the NC2A season is so long. Like it's or even the NC2A meet, I guess, like I was thinking March Madness, but like it's a week. Like it's a week long, and so I think like when you start competing, you're just so exhausted and like you touch the wall, you see your time, you see you got third or whatever, and you're just like, okay, like on to the next like type of thing, or like, okay, I gotta get my award, then I gotta warm down, then I have to do the relay. Like it wasn't, and I guess, sorry, I'm really rambling here. It's like
it's your podcast, it's your episode. No need to apologize.
It's like as soon as I touched, I was like, okay, cool, next thing type of thing. There really wasn't a time to like celebrate, which I guess like referring back to the post, that was like my celebration of like, cheers, like we did it type of thing. But yeah.
That's an interesting subject right there,
Mm-hmm.
and I've talked about this very early on in the days of this podcast, specifically actually with Alicia, with Cameron Rogers as well, this concept of...
She is so cool.
Cameron?
Yeah.
She's so dope.
She's so cool.
She's so cool. I probably mention her name at some point every time in this podcast. She knows it too. Like, she's been on here way too many times. She's one of my best friends here.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, she's an awesome person, and we talk about this pretty frequently, the done next mentality, like... all right, I accomplished this, done, next. And how we share it in a way, but we've both have had to learn to find time to celebrate.
Yeah.
Have you been able to do that or not really?
I don't think, so going back, 2021, our relay got DQ'd in 2021, and then there was a, on the last day, the 4x100 free relay, which we won in 2019, I dove in and we were last when I dove in, and then I think I managed to catch us up. I think we got third, but like third by like .0 something. Like I almost caught us up to second, and I remember I didn't forgive myself for so long because I thought it was my fault and that we didn't get second or whatever. And I think we did like so I think it was Greg Chow came and did a workshop with our team. He's like a sports psychologist here at Cal, and he had us do like an exercise or something, and it was something that like from last season we couldn't let go. And I was paired with freshmen, like 2 freshmen, and I was talking it out with them, and they're like, "But you had the fastest split in the whole NC2A that year," and I was like, "Yeah, but we didn't get set. Like I couldn't catch up," and they're like, "But you did your part," and I kind of had to like reframe it, and so it was literally like March to August. I finally was like, okay, actually, that was a really, really good beat. I went all best times. I had the fastest split or whatever, like, all this stuff. This season, I think it didn't take me as long, but it was definitely, like, the last night of NC, so, like, it's a Saturday, I think. The other teams were getting, top 4 teams get their trophy, and Cal we always stay and like cheer them on, and just out of respect and congratulating them and everything. And Terry gave us a talk, and I just broke down crying. I was exhausted. I like didn't want to be there. Of course, like I swam well, like I went best times like you said, and I just didn't want to be there. Like I think when it comes to swimming, it can be an individual sport, but it's such a team sport collegiately that it was like, okay, I did well, but the team didn't. So it's like, I was in like this really weird position of like, well, I did good, but like, can I celebrate? Like I felt like I couldn't, be happy for myself because the team wasn't performing well, honestly. So it was just like this really awkward thing. And I think when I went home, I was, talking with my mom who swam, like all this stuff, and my club coaches being so happy for me, or like whatever it was, like realizing, no, I can celebrate. It's okay. Like I did okay. So it didn't take as long as like the year before, but definitely like, sorry.
You're good.
I think after such a high intensity meet like that, you need to step away and kind of collect yourself and like let the emotions settle before you can celebrate or be pissed, like whatever it is. So yeah. I'm talking so much.
Like I said, it's your episode, your podcast. But no, I mean it makes sense, and I think I've just had to learn that, like, in my own journey, like, sometimes you do need to celebrate, because if not, you can't keep going, and then you obviously end up reaching burnout and all these things. So, yeah, it's definitely something I've just had to learn, and as soon as you said that, I'm like, I need to ask about that.
Yeah,
but
that was a good question.
How does it feel like, because that was the craziest part to me. Like, I've talked about this with other swimmers, like Reese, and how annoying the media can be. Yeah. And I don't understand it because I'm not an elite athlete like you guys. But, like, you have media coverage right there at the meet with Leo, right? And then you have media coverage with the whole Terry situation. Like, what's that like? Is the solution just to literally do what you did with your phone and just turn it off? Or how does that work? I remember even, too, like, you mentioning when articles come out about the transfer portal and things like that. It's like, turn off the phone. There's many people reaching out. Like,
yeah, it's terrible. I think, like, everyone wants to know everything all the time. So it's like, even if you turn your phone off, like Terry, for example, like, she was telling me the other day that, like, she went to like a grocery store or something, and there was a print of her, and it's like, okay, so even if it's just digital, like, paper still exists, you know what I mean? So it's just like, it's kind of hard to escape it all. Media, oh god, I don't even know where to begin. I think it's just like, the worst part is that anyone can say anything. So it's like, I think, like, that 100 free, for example, like, there were some comments, like, online. I shouldn't have looked, but I did. And there were some comments of, like, expected more from her, or, like, that wasn't a good swim from her, or something like that. And it's just like, God, like, if only you knew, like, how exhausted I am, or, like, what unfortunate shit I have going on in my personal life. Like, all this stuff, it's just, like, you have no idea. And you also probably have no right to comment on my swimming, like, but, yeah, the media is definitely intense. It's always there. You can't escape it. And you can try to, like, frame things in a way, kind of like how we just did, and people can clip it and say whatever they want about it, and it's just like, okay, this is just the life we live. Like, I don't really know how else to say it. It's definitely chaotic. Regarding the Terry thing, it's like, the thing that, like, shocks me the most is how fast it happened. Like, it was, like, within, like, 2 weeks, I think there were, like, 10 articles, like, literally, like, back to back to back, like, just rolling out, and it was like, oh my gosh, like, this is crazy. Like, it's just, like, yeah, like, I don't know. It's just fast. Like, it's so fast, and as soon as word gets out, it's on millions of phones or whatever, and it's just, like, out there for the world to see. I just don't understand the media. Like, it's so crazy to me, like, how it's just, like, crazy, yeah.
Yeah, it was insane that even happened, and I, like, when thinking about that and, like, doing the research, doing the notes, I was like, damn, like, those two things happened back to back and all of that. And it's like, whoa.
Okay, well, you want to hear something even crazier? So, I took my break after NC's, right? The day I was like, oh, I'm going to come back, I swam. The first Harry About article came out after my workout. And I was like, here we go, I took another 2 months off. Like, I was like, I can't deal with this on top of, like, all of this other stuff. So I was just like, okay. So that sucked because I was like, okay, you know, then she got removed from deck, like, whatever it was, like, all this stuff happening. And I was just like, what are the odds of, like, I take a break the first day, like, at this point it was, like, 3 months, maybe close to 4, that I taken off, and, like, you're kidding me, the freaking day I get back, the article dropped. I was like, okay. What, that is so bizarre, like, I don't know. It's just wild.
That's insane.
Yeah.
That's insane that all of that happened, and unfortunate, I guess, but at least you're back.
Yeah, I am back, yeah.
You're back after a long break.
Mm-hmm.
You hadn't swam until the World Cup now. And during that time, you did take the decision of the transfer portal.
Yes.
Can you take me through what that looks like or what that process is about?
Oh, gosh. Yeah, it was definitely chaotic. But the transfer portal was really intense. Once I entered, I definitely, like, I think the way, like, grad transfers are recruited is way different than, like, an undergrad, for example, because I was told, so I was talking to a couple schools, and one of them was like, well, so first of all, no schools really reached out to me, which I was kind of bummed about, because I do think of myself as a good swimmer, but a couple of the coaches who I reached out to actually told me that, like, oh, well, we don't really chase fifth years, and I was like, oh, well, how come? Because I was genuinely curious. I was like, why does no one want me? It's because they automatically, like, assume you know where you're going for a grad degree. So it's like they assume you're getting you know what masters you're looking for, and if this school has it, you'll reach out. So it was definitely very, very different than my first experience of being recruited. But yeah, I reached out to, like, 3 schools and was talking to them, and it was a hard decision, like, deciding where to go, but of course, like, you get a feeling like I did when I was here, and you do what's best for you. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. We can put it off until a bit later if you want, unless you want to talk about it right now.
I can share. Yeah, should we do it like a drum roll or something?
We'll do a little drum roll for the announcement of where Isabel Ivey is going next.
I'm going to the University of Florida.
Awesome.
Talking about a full circle moment. Like, that's where, like, my club team was. I grew up swimming in that pool, so it's really exciting to go back. The program is doing so well. Like, the women's side is climbing each year. They're doing great, and of course, you know, you have, like, literally the best freestylers in the world training there on the men and women's side, so putting myself in the pool with them is just going to be great. And it was cute because so mom swam there, right? And so they have like this national championship wall where you get like your headshot up there and mom's up there. And so I'm like, how cool would it be if I could be up there with her and have like that full circle moment. And then like, so the head coach, Anthony Nesty, was my mom's training partner.
No way.
Yeah, and so there's like this historic set of like 100 100s fly or something crazy. And everyone always talks. There was like a podcast recently, or like back in March or whatever, with like these 3 boys. Bjorn was on it, and then Adam Chaney from Florida. And Adam was talking about it, and he was like, yeah, the Nesty always talks about this like set. And there was some girl who did it with him, and that was my mom. So mom would do it with him. And so when I called him and committed, he was like, he got emotional. He was like, this is so cool. Like, I swam with your mom at the University of Florida, and now I'm coaching you. And I'm like, yeah, it's just special. Like, I'm really excited, and it will be cool. Like, my last year of collegiate swimming will be where, like, my whole family can come. Like, my parents can come, my brothers can come, my grandparents. Like, everyone's so close. It's not across the country like Cal, that it will just be, like, a really cool way to end my career. I mean, who knows what's going to happen, but at least end the collegiate side of my career. So, yeah, I'm so excited.
This is that Florida moment for me. Like, I'm so happy for you. Honestly, if I had to place a bet on where you were going, I would have said Florida for those obvious reasons, but I didn't know the context with that coach. I did actually listen to that episode from Social Kick. I think that's the name of it.
Yeah, Social Kick. Yeah.
So I listened to that. No clue. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That
so
happened,
cool.
and I'm so excited for you.
Thanks.
Is that what grad program is it? Still the nursing?
So I wanted to do that, but I came to the really harsh realization that nursing and clinical hours and swimming is going to be really hard. So I'm actually doing a master's in business.
Whoa.
So I'm so excited for that, and it's definitely like, I was like, business, maybe. But it's cool because it's a program where it's like you couldn't have your undergrad in business. So I'm not getting thrown into like this hardcore thing. It's like for people who didn't have an undergrad in business. So I'm excited. It'll be really cool. And then like if I want to continue, I think like the one I'm taking is like specifically management, which is like half the MBA program. So then I can always do the other half. So that's cool. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's so awesome. I'm so happy for you.
Thanks.
And I'm genuinely very excited to see where that leads and where that happens, and excited to watch the live streams is what I can say. With the sport, you recently went back to competing after a long time. What was that experience like at the World Cup? Not even results-wise, just like you enjoying the sport. Was there a rekindle? Was a love for the sport rekindled? Is it still the swimming from wall to wall in just a time, or is there a genuine like happiness coming from it?
Yeah, well, I think like the World Cup was a great first meet back because it's short course meters, and I've never done that before. So like collegiate is short course yards, and then the Olympics is like long course meters. So it's the long course pool cut in half. So I've never done it before. It's mainly done internationally. The U.S. doesn't usually compete in short course meters. So I thought it was going to be perfect because I had no expectation going in time-wise, like race strategy-wise, like literally nothing. So I was pretty stoked with how I swam. I finaled twice. Did I win? No, but I made it back. That was more than I was expecting because like it's all the best athletes in the world were like traveling to do it because there's the 3 stops. So, and Indy was the last one. So I was very fortunate to get to go. I was just really excited to race, and I think that like it was cool having the no expectation, no pressure situation going on because I could just literally race and not have any idea what I was doing out there, and it was great. Sorry.
You're good. If you need a break, feel free. That actually happened to me. First time it ever happened to me, I was recording with Bjorn, and I was like, same. I started coughing, teary-eyed, like I cut it out, and he's like, bro, are you okay? And I'm like, yeah, I'm
there's
fine.
like this like bug going around the team, and I'm getting over it. I don't have it, but my body doesn't produce the bacteria that fights off pneumococcal bacteria.
Okay.
So lung infections, I just get them so easily. So I don't have it anymore. I'm getting over it, but I still get that
Yeah. You're good. Take the time you need.
I'm good.
Okay. Well, that's awesome with the World Cup and that you did that. And
Yeah.
I assume this is what it is, but I don't know it for a fact. The short course is just like where it's at 25 meters instead of 50, right? Long course is 50.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's the Olympic size pool cut in half.
Yeah.
And that's what we were doing. So
Awesome.
very different, but very cool. And definitely it was high pressure for a lot of people because the World Cup is where there's a lot of prize money. But obviously that wasn't a goal of mine. My goal was to just get back into racing mode and see what would happen. And I went with a great group of people from not only Cal, but we also had a lot of pro people sitting with us, and it was so fun. It was a girls' trip, it felt like, and yeah, it was awesome. And definitely like you said, rekindled my love for the sport. So it was really great. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's so cool. Something I completely forgot to ask you last time. Mm-hmm. You're surrounded by a lot of great swimmers.
Yeah.
From what you said previously, I think you're an exceptional swimmer, right? You're one of the best, if not the best, currently at Cal. How tough is it being an American citizen in terms of swimming internationally? Because not to say anything about anyone else, but you do have either current, former teammates that are Olympians that you may have better times than at certain times, but being an American citizen is what limits you from the Olympics. So what's that like?
Yeah, it's definitely interesting, and I've had so many conversations with my international teammates who are we wish we had it your way, but then if you ask any American, we're oh, we wish we had it your way, because it's, for other countries, for example, a lot of the times it's it's a time cut. The U.S. produces so many elite swimmers that it comes down to placement. So it's definitely tough, and that's where, that comparison often comes into play, and not feeling good enough and stuff like that. But it all goes down to you did the best you can in that moment, and your time will come, or this is what it is, and if you love the sport, it's okay. So it's definitely finding that balance that we talked about earlier. And yeah, being an American swimmer is so hard. It's the NCs, I feel I'm really confident short course. Long course, it's a little tougher for me just mentally, because there is so much, I feel there's so much pressure when it comes to making a team and even making a final. It's the sport's only getting faster. It's not slowing down anytime soon. So I definitely have to make some adjustments. And of course, everyone's constantly trying to improve. So it's just the fun of the sport. It's
just, keep going nonstop. What's your motivation at this point? Because you have one collegiate season left. Is it extrinsic motivation, something that you could receive, a prize or anything like that? Or is it intrinsic, as in coming from inside, something about you that's just attached to swimming? What keeps you going at this point?
That is such a good question. I definitely have some goals that I haven't reached yet in the collegiate scene in particular. I'll be going into the SEC, which is a totally different conference, so that will be interesting in its own, and that also opens other goals, not just individually but team goals probably. And yeah, of course, NCs, I want to win, so we have one more year to try to secure that. I like to think that it's more from within, though. I think there are definitely some things, looking at my career, I haven't really had a normal season.
Exactly.
I haven't had a fall to spring, and that's really important to me. I want to have that experience, so I want that. But of course, I love swimming, and I think this COVID year is a blessing in disguise for a lot of who want 4 NC2As. Not everyone takes 4 NC2As. I know there's been a history in the past of people going pro, or a lot of people chose not to take a COVID year and go pro, or whatever the case, or be done, or focus on other things. And someone like me who I don't think I've reached my full potential yet, and so I haven't achieved these goals I've had set for myself. And I think that this last year of eligibility kind of gives me that opportunity to at least try, because I don't want to not do it and look back and be like, dang, what if? I'd rather just go for it. So I'm definitely like putting myself in a position, in my opinion, that will set me up in the best way possible, with like that family support, being surrounded by some of the best athletes in the sport. And, you know, UF as a whole is just like, has an outstanding support system in terms of like their athletics are crazy. So it's just like, I think it's the best situation to happen. So I'm stoked.
That's so awesome. And yeah, like the only thing, I mean, obviously cheering you on in terms of results and everything, and I hope you accomplish it all. But like, I think just listening to your whole story, the thing I hope you find is just like that happiness that you were talking about, right? Like every time you start talking about it, it's like, see, you're smiling already again. Like it's like you get so excited about it, and it's so cool to see. So something I've learned is that happiness is a means to its own end. Like it's the same thing as the podcast, right? Like, will I post this eventually? Yes. Could it get success? Yes. But the only reason I do it is because I enjoy like this moment right now, like being here. It's that happiness for me, and it's the means to its own end. So I hope you can find that once again, and hopefully that'll bring up even better results. Like working on the personal often leads to improvement professionally in whatever your craft is, but not really the other way around. So hopefully that helps you out moving forward.
Yeah.
To start closing out, you mentioned NIL once, but I've seen that you have some experience, at least with Tentry and Finnis recently, which I saw you right before that shoot, which was funny. I don't know if you have any other experience, but what's that been like so far?
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. Like, I've had a couple opportunities with various companies. I don't know, I think it's really cool for just athletes to get that exposure and like start building connections like that for like professional careers or whatever it is. Swimming, however, I do think it's so different in terms of like, if you compare like a swimmer's deal to like a football player or basketball player, obviously the money is very different, and so stuff like that is confusing, and it can be challenging to navigate sometimes. But I just try to like partner with some brands that have a purpose that I believe in. So like I have deals with like Tentry and Leaf Shave, and they're both very environmentally aware of like their impact on the earth, and they're very like pro, you know, like Tentry, obviously they plant 10 trees for every item purchased, and then Leaf Shave it's a razor, and it's like 100% recyclable, like stuff like that. So it's stuff like that's really important to me, and I like when I can partner with people who have very similar like morals and purposes as I do. So I think it's like, it's really cool, and also like, who's gonna say no to like just like, I feel like NIL deals are a really nice way for student athletes to make money legally and like stay within the NCAA rules and stuff. So yeah, it definitely opens a lot of doors. And yeah, I mean, I've had a good experience with this so far, but in the beginning I was definitely like, how do I even, like, I just was DMing all these people on, like, Instagram, like, trying to, like, you know, like, Lululemon, like, all these people that I would, like, love to work with. And, you know, you're lucky if you get a response or whatever it is. So it's definitely, yeah, I think it's really going to change college sports for sure. Because if you look at, oh my gosh, this was so interesting. I think her name is, like, Sienna, or she's on TikTok. She's an Oregon basketball player.
Yes, Sedona.
Sedona, yeah. So I remember there was like someone did like a stats and something like that, whatever the term is. And the money she was making, because she's viral on TikTok, right? She has hundreds of thousands of followers, like probably maybe in the millions, I don't even know. And on Instagram too, the money she's making through NIL is more than double that WNBA players are making. Like, there was something, I don't know if this is true, it was someone on TikTok who did this statistics or whatever, but, like, seeing, like, and people were like, don't go pro. Like, enjoy your college experience and make, like, she was making $500,000 off of NIL deals. And I think, like, the guy was like, oh, the highest paid WNBA player was, like, $300,000, like, something like that. And so people were like, stay in college, don't go pro. And so I just think that's so interesting that it's, like, some people, if you have that following social media, unfortunately, like, that's how you get these deals usually. So, I don't know, it's really interesting. But, yeah, opens a lot of doors for sure.
Opens a lot for sure. I think it's going to have unfortunate impacts on the NCAA as an institution and on college sports as we know it. With that being said, I wouldn't blame the athletes at all. For example, an article came out last week, New York Times, Livy Dunn, who's a gymnast at LSU. Right? She was criticized for how she makes money, this and that, which, in my opinion, that's bullshit, right? But with that being said, that money that's being made is only a big deal because they're athletes. If they weren't athletes and they were just on TikTok, they'd be making the same amount of money. Like, even to that argument with Sedona, she could go pro and still be a creator and be making those deals, getting those sponsorships instead of NIL, it's sponsorship. That's the only difference. Like, I think there's, at least for me that I post so often on social media, like, you have to separate the athlete from the creator, and are they intertwined? Well, it's the same person, obviously, but you look at people that are dancing on TikTok versus Livy Dunn that's posting on TikTok, and it's like, it's pretty much the same thing.
It is,
like, what's the difference there, you know?
Yeah, I think the only thing I would, like, counter is, like, maybe, okay, I don't know Livy Dunn personally, obviously, and I don't know who she's done deals with, per se, or anything like that, but, like, some people will just, like, I know athletes who just, like, will do a contract or whatever just because it's free stuff or, like, whatever it is. And I think someone like me, I'm really more into, like, I'm really more careful about it. Like, for me, it's not just about, like, the free stuff. It's like, okay, what's your mission? What are you trying to do? Like, what's the company's, like, mission statement? Like, stuff like that. Like, that's what I want to make sure that who I'm partnering with aligns with who I am and things I care about, not just, like, do you remember when NIL first broke? I think there's some, like, hydration, is it, like, Liquid IV?
Liquid IV.
Like, everyone I know freaking did a deal with them, and they would just get free, and I was like, I don't want free stuff, like, I want some money, like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't just want, like, but also, like, is that stuff good for you? Like, I don't know. Like, I don't know anything about Liquid IV, but I just remember, like, everyone was, like, signing with them, and I was like, okay, like, cool, I guess, but...
Yeah, no, I mean, I've tried it because of my housemates that have those deals. Honestly, it is pretty good.
Okay.
Like, yeah, it does taste really good.
It does the job?
Yes, it honestly does. But I don't know too much into it. I've never done a deal with them or anything, but no, you're right. I mean, I don't know Livy Dunn personally either, but... she's just such a big name at this point that you can tell it's not like, oh, I'm gonna do this to get free things. Like, she's making more than a living just through that. So
it's crazy.
But it's interesting how it varies by sport and by what they're doing and things like that. Even gymnastics, right? Like, I'm a big swim fan. I'm a big gymnastics fan. And that sport just continues to grow. But I think you have to separate the athlete from the creator at that 100%. Point. With somebody like Sedona, with somebody like Livy, it's like they're separate. Like, some people don't even watch them do their sport, and
they just see them on TikTok or whatever. I think that's really important. That goes back to, like, the whole then, like, separating the athlete from the person type of thing, you know? Like, it's like you have all these different not personas, but, like, I guess just, like, versions of yourself, like who you are, your athletic performance, who you're perceived to be online, like, all these different things. So it's that's really interesting. Yeah, NIL, who knows? I don't know what it's going to do. I agree with you. I think it's not in the best intentions maybe for the NCAA. Maybe even, one could even make the argument that it's harming professional athletes as well, like, in terms of, like, their own deals. Like, who knows? But I think it's a cool opportunity for sure for student athletes to, like, at least start building those relationships for when they're professional, or, make a quick buck, like some people do, you know?
Yeah. We'll see. We'll see where it goes and where it leads. I can't predict anything right now, but it's cool that you get the opportunity to do that, and that you're making the best out of it through your morals and values. I think that's awesome. So
Thanks,
congrats
yeah.
on that. A few quick swimming related
Yeah.
questions that I just
Let's
it
go.
always calls my attention. It's 3 that just stand out.
Okay.
Warming down. Why is it warming down and not cooling down? Like, it's supposed to be warming up and cooling down. Why is it warm up, warm down?
That is, I don't know. I've always been told that. I guess it's because we're already warm. So warm down.
So don't you want to cool down if you're warm?
But I don't know. Why is it called that? Now I'm questioning it. Maybe because the pool's warm? It can be. Because why, like, okay, I know runners, for example, right? They get, like, a cool down run. But the pool's warm.
Is it, though? I thought it was supposed to be cool so that you guys swim faster.
Yeah, but sometimes the warm up, warm down pools are warmer.
I
don't know.
Maybe that could be it.
This is like a hot take. Like, why is swimming the only sport that does that? Is swimming the only sport that calls it warm down?
Soccer and every other sport, to my knowledge, says cooling down. But swimmers always say, oh, we're going to go warm down. So I don't know why swimming does that.
Oh my gosh. I don't know either. That is such a good question. I didn't know other sports called it that.
I always say we're going to go cool down.
Maybe
cool
I'll
down.
start saying cool down. And we'll see. Maybe I can make the change in the swimming community.
Maybe you could. Maybe it could be you.
But who's right? That's the question.
I mean, what are you doing with your body? Are you warming down? No, you're cooling down. No.
But you don't want to... I don't know. This is so interesting. I was not expecting this question.
We'll leave it up to the people in the comments or something.
Yeah, they can comment or something down below. Warming down or cooling down? That is so... I don't know. I'm gonna have to get back to you on that. I'll get back. I'll take a poll tomorrow at practice and be like, why do we call it warming down?
Let me know.
Yeah, I'll let you know. That is so interesting.
Other question.
Yeah.
What was my... Let me see, what were my other 2 questions? Shoot. Oh, the shaving process.
Yeah.
For you guys. Because I
Okay.
feel like it's different than to the men's shaving
Yeah.
process.
Yeah. So I'm really superstitious with shaving. Like, I didn't see your one that you did when you talked about shaving.
With Kyle?
With Kyle.
He just explained what it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's to eliminate drag, but it's not just the hair, it's like the dead skin.
The skin follicles,
yeah.
right? Yeah.
So it's like everything. That's why you're like super smooth after you shave. So my process, do you want to know about my process?
Sure,
Or,
yeah.
Okay, I'm ridiculous, but like some people, you have your razor and you do your legs, your arms. Girls sometimes will do like their backs. Some guys do their chest, obviously, and stuff too. So I, however, use 1 razor per limb. So I use a total of 4. And I often will do it like, this is so not eco-friendly of me. Thank God I did a partnership with Leaf Shave, okay? So I don't do this anymore, but I would have like 1 razor for this arm, one. And then also, not only would I do that, but every morning before I would race, I would do it again. And then, after you race, like, we do ice baths to like help with recovery. So then I'll do my ice bath, I'll eat my lunch, whatever, take a nap. I'll do a wake up shower after my nap, but because of the ice bath, I got cold, so like your hair will like sprout, so I'll shave again. So I'm like really into it. I'll take a flashlight, I'll like look, make sure I didn't miss any hairs. Like I'm really kind of obsessive and superstitious about it. But yeah, it definitely like, you feel a huge difference, in my opinion, when you're shaved versus when you're not. It's a really cool feeling because, yeah, you're just, like, slippery. Like, the water's just running off. And then, of course, like, we have our tech suits, which are water resistant. So it's just, like, you're floating and you just, like, fly. It's the coolest feeling ever. But, yeah, shaving is definitely an intensive process. I know so many guys who will be like, can you shave my back, or like whatever it is, or like they obviously they have a lot more body hair sometimes, so it takes longer, but it's definitely a process and a half for everyone.
That's super interesting with your superstitions too.
Oh yeah.
Are you very superstitious with what you do?
When it comes to like my pre-race routine and like stuff like that, yeah, like I'll wear like 5 or 7 jackets, like I have gloves, a hat, like I wear UGG boots, like I have, like, all these things I do, and, like, the way I, like, put them on and take them off, and, like, yeah, it's a whole thing. But it's definitely, like, I think, especially at Cal, like, it was instilled in me to, like, control the controllables. So I really take that to heart with, like, I'm gonna control everything I can, like, in regards to my own self. So, like, you know, how many layers I wear, how I take my gloves off and on, like, whatever it is, who caps me, like, talk about superstitions. It's always, like, at NCs, for example, like, so along with shaving and our suits, we have a dome cap, which is a little different than, like, our regular season college caps. They're just a lot tighter and smoother, so there's no wrinkles in them, so there's no drag. So that's a thing, and I'll always have the same person cap me for the whole meet. Like, as soon as you cap me for the first time, it's like, okay, you're my person for the meet. So I have a lot of weird superstitions, but they work for me, so.
Superstition or OCD, you think? Could it be?
I'm gonna go with superstition.
Okay, I've talked about this. I thought I used to have OCD, and when I mentioned it once to an athletic trainer, they were like, you have no idea how many athletes probably have OCD. And it's like, all right, I guess that's it. But we'll go with superstition. Last one of curious swimming questions.
Okay.
Do swimmers pee in the pool?
Yes. Oh my god. I probably pee like 8 times a workout. It's like every time I'm on the wall and if I have a second, I'm peeing in the pool. Like, it's, if you do not pee in the pool, you are lying. You are lying. Everyone pees in the pool. Like, all the guys will joke about it during practice. Like, everyone pees in the pool. And recently, the pool's been so cold that I believe everyone's peeing in the pool to try to warm themselves up, especially because it is so freaking cold. But yeah, any chance I get, I'll just, like, pee on the wall. Like, if the coach is explaining the set, like, I'm not going to run to the bathroom, miss the whole set, and then be confused and lost. Like, just pee in the pool. Also, the pool is so chlorinated that anything is, like, dead within seconds. So germs, whatever, I don't worry about it.
That's your take.
Just happens. Like, it's, honestly, if you have to do anything but pee, get out of the pool.
Obviously,
please,
yeah.
Please, like, okay, but, like, pee, okay, it's fine. Like, it's natural.
It is. On a bit more serious note, again, closing out, you go from looking up to the cool aunts your freshman year, Abby and, like, that I mean, I'm referencing the interview, to being in their position now.
Oh, yeah.
What would you tell that version of Isabel Ivey freshman year, like, looking back at everything you experienced?
You're in for a wild ride, kid. Yeah, I mean, I think, like, just on everything we've touched on today already, like, it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to take a break. It's okay to prioritize other things sometimes other than swimming. Yeah, and just, like, I think I had to learn quite quickly that, like, a lot of feelings that I feel reflect on my confidence. And so I really had to work with a lot of people on, like, instilling confidence in me and self-confidence. And when I first got here, I was definitely not this confident kid. And I like to think I have a little more self-confidence and self-esteem today. So it's definitely, like, I just feel like everyone grows so much in college, like, in their own ways, especially, but in all aspects of their life. And so I think that, like, I don't know, I'd probably just give me a little hug and be like, you got it, it's okay. So
that's awesome. That's awesome that you have that. And I remember in one of the podcasts you did, I believe it was with Cal, you had a quote where it says, Cal is a place where everyone genuinely wants you to succeed.
Yeah.
And that's awesome that you had that experience. Even, like, the gala event, which I saw people attended, like, for the aquatic ceremony, right? Like, being a part of that and being, like, surrounded by the greats, but not only that, like, belonging to the greats now. Like, you're leading with leading in 5 events. You have 2 school records on relays. You were only the 11th Golden Bear to be Swimmer of the Year for the Pac-12. Like, I think that says a lot about your journey. And, I mean, I understand that it's been nothing close to normal, but you did it anyway. So I think it's worth... definitely worth applauding and recognizing, but it's worth celebrating, to your point.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, definitely very proud of what I've overcome and how much I've succeeded academically and athletically. And excited for the future for sure, and to take what I've learned here and implement it into the next program, or just in my working life one day. So yeah.
Awesome. Very last question.
Yes.
What is your definition of success?
See, I knew you asked this too, and I totally should have planned it. I think a definition of success is if you can do what you're doing on your day-to-day, whether that's, athletics, I'm going to say athletics for now, or even just like whatever it is. If you're doing your day-to-day, if you can look in the mirror at the end of the day and be proud of who you are and happy with what you did, I think that's the definition of success. If you can be proud of yourself.
Awesome. Yes,
Yay.
I do ask that question. Yes, I will continue to ask it. It's one of my favorite questions ever.
That is such a good question.
It's one of my favorites, and everybody has their own way of answering it, and it's awesome to see. So
Great.
This entire thing was a blast.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I know it was weird with the circumstances and everything the first time, so I really appreciate you coming back the second time, and hopefully everything works out.
Yes.
And did I miss anything? Anything else you want to say?
Oh, I don't think so. Thanks for having me. It was a blast.
Oh, awesome. Well, to everyone that watched on YouTube or listened on Spotify, thank you guys so much. If you're on YouTube, please like and subscribe. If you're on Spotify, please follow the podcast. That's it. Isabel, thank you so much.
Thanks.
Wish you the best of luck moving forward. I'll be cheering you on.
Thank you so much.
And for everybody else, that's it for today. I'll see you guys next time. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. Make sure to subscribe to my podcast and follow me on my personal social media accounts for more, all at Fer Andraez. All links are in the description. If this episode inspired you in any way, please help me out by sharing it with a friend to help them leave their dent in the universe as well. That's it for today. I'll see you all next time.